Greetings, welcome to the Marginally Geeky Show. I'm your host for the evening, Eugene Stevens. Tonight I'm joined by Chris and Sean. How are y'all doing?
Oh, any better, I'd be illegal.
There you go.
Good deal. Tonight's book we are reading is New Spring by Robert Jordan. This is the prequel book for the Wheel of Time series. That's like 17 books in that series. It's a long one.
Yeah, it's 14.
Yeah, 14, 7. Yeah, it's definitely up there. This is also the last book in the, I guess, round to call it, where we were all picking our books to read, and this was your pick, right, Chris?
Yep, this was mine.
So why did you pick this book?
So I had been, because the Wheel of Time has a series on, is it Amazon?
Yeah.
Amazon. And it looked very fantastical and magical and stuff. And then I started hearing how shit it was. And I started looking more into it and be like, okay, we don't have Amazon Prime, so I can't watch it. But I just wanted to know more about it, about why fans had such a hard time with it and what the big deal was. And then I realized that the first, was it like 2 books or several books, are like 1,000 pages. And I'm like, that's a little much. That's too intimidating. I don't want to start with that. So when I found the prequel to the Wheel of Time, and it was it like 400 and something pages, I'm like, that's very doable. Let's just see if I even like what's going on, the world that he's created.
That's why you picked the prequel. I was wondering about that.
Yeah, because there's no, and I wouldn't been able to finish the first book in a month anyway. There's no way. It took me a month to read this one, almost a month. So, because I only read it at night. But yeah, I just wanted to see, because it's over a dozen book commitment. Am I in for this? Am I gonna like it? So I just wanted to see, and it is, and I knew he had passed away before the series had finished. So, and I checked, and this was 2004, at least the book I have, the copyright.
The prequel was done 2004. That's
that was
between
before,
like the 6th and 7th novel.
Yes, it was before he passed away, because he passed away in 2007.
So between the 6th and 7th book, he writes the prequel series, or the prequel book, and then continues on with the main.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
So, before.
Sorry, between the 10th and 11th novel.
Okay.
Oh,
jeez.
Yeah.
Still,
only,
man, that's
like, geez.
Yeah.
What a lazy jerk. Only the 10th and 11th book. God. I wish.
Well, let's get into it. Chris, I'll start with you. Initial impressions.
So I have started to read, since I started reading Taliesin by Stephen Lougheed. I've kind of discovered I like high fantasy books.
Okay.
Read Lord of the Rings and really like that. And then, so this is the next sort of high fantasy thing that I'm reading. And yeah, I just wanted to see, because it's popular. The series has been out forever. It's a, pretty loyal fan base. And honestly, it was why the backlash to the show. And I wanted to know why. And I wanted to see if I would like it, like the world that he created. 2 thumbs up.
Okay.
Good.
So far, so good.
Sean, what about you?
So I've been a series of Wheel of Time since I think when I started reading it, he was on about the 3rd novel.
Oh, wow.
So I've been reading this since the early 90s.
Wow. Okay.
So I'm one of the people that was so looking forward to the series on Amazon, and then they just destroyed some of the material and tried upping it into like Game of Thrones, and it's not that type kind of thing. And so yeah, I watched the series and then I hated it. So I'll keep watching it just because I want to see what else they're going to do to it. But if they run it again. But as for this particular novel, I didn't really enjoy it. It didn't bring a lot to the overall series. If you read like from his first novel, not the prequel, and I think you'll really like the first novel, Chris.
Okay.
Even though it's long, it has a lot of good story. The pace is really good.
Mm-hmm.
But the prequel itself, if you were a fan of the Wheel of Time series, it didn't bring a whole lot, and actually, it kind of muddied the waters a little bit.
Okay.
I found the timing, because in the novels, they really it's almost as if Moraine is older, and especially Swan Sanchez, for what she becomes. So to have this prequel novel start only 20 years before this, like the actual series started, it didn't seem like enough time. Like they
Okay.
were in the White Tower, they were still initiates kind of thing, and it's like, but by the time you see them in the other novels, you'd figure they'd be like 100 years old by then, kind of thing. So it really kind of, it's only like 19 years or whatever.
Okay.
It's actually in the novels, I don't think it's even that much. So it really kind of screwed up some timelines that you kind of had set up in your head. And the story itself was meh, especially compared to like the rest of the novels. Like you could tell I think this was his vacation year. So he was like, oh, I got to put something out. Here we go. I'll just do this.
Mm-hmm.
So that's my thoughts anyway.
I had forgotten this was a prequel to the Wheel of Time series. And I really don't know, even though there's the series on Amazon, and I have seen it. I have seen some of the commercials and stuff for it. I didn't know how much high fantasy it was, so I didn't know exactly where to kind of set my expectations. Because and when I say that, it's like, okay, well, they talk of magic. Well, is it like real magic? Is it like being able to summon stuff? Or are we talking like, oh no, I can kind of whisper to the trees, or that, what I'm saying, like kind of on the bar of where it lays. I didn't know where it laid like that. And I started listening to this book, and I literally, after several hours, had to stop and go find the Wikipedia page on it and read it, and just like, what the hell is going on? Because I had no clue what was going on. I think part of the other problem was my work is extremely busy right now. Now, granted, I have plenty of time to listen to audiobooks and stuff. Um, but it was demanding my attention, at least for the initial setup, so much that I was like, I slowed it down. I was like, all right, well, let me slow this down a little bit, make sure I'm not skipping over important stuff or whatever. But yeah, I was just like, and then we actually accidentally kind of started talking about this before the show. The Like a lot of high fantasy, the names are not spelt the way you would necessarily think they're going to be pronounced.
Glossary at the beginning about how he would prefer you pronounce like the letters that he puts together, how it's actually supposed to be, the sound it's supposed to make.
Mhm.
Because I just made up crap in my head, and I knew it was wrong.
But if they never make a movie out of it, then it's always going to be right. It's in your head. Who cares?
Well, I know, but it's just you want to honor the way he thought it should be pronounced.
Yeah, he could have spelled it phonetically.
Well, and that's the thing. Like you're gonna throw in these weird, typical high fantasy names. You better be prepared for people to mispronounce them. And
okay, and so like one of the ones, literally the first one's out of our mouth. Okay, Moraine's pretty much spelled like, I can see how you can get Moraine out of that. Okay,
pretty straightforward.
Yeah, it's got a couple of extra letters in there, but it's not too bad.
No.
But one of the characters' name is Swan, and it's literally spelled Siuan, and it's like, what?
I have it in my head that it's Suan.
Suan, and that's
a lovely name. Suan.
I'll be honest with you. If I had read the book, I would have probably done the exact same thing. I would have looked at it and been like, Suan. All right, Suan, cool. That's who you are. So
that's your name now.
Yeah. But anyway, so I kind of stopped and like I said, did a little background reading on it so I could have a little better idea what the hell was going on, because I honestly had no clue what was going on. And then started back up. it didn't grab me, and I'm
Mhm.
a little interested now in what you were saying, Sean, because if the rest of the series is much better than this, then I might be willing to give it a shot. But if this is par for the course for the series, I
No.
think I'm a pass on it. So,
It's you could probably get away with even just reading the first novel
mhm,
because it's not fully self-contained because it does lead to other ones, but it's a good enough story that it could be one on its own, and it gives you a really good. Well, it's one of the better ones written, but it'll give you a good breadth of what the other novels are going to be.
mhm,
Now, just a heads up, like this is such a huge series, and you're going to lose track of characters. There's going to be some of the main characters aren't even in certain novels
Mhm.
because they just are focusing on others so
mhm,
much.
Yeah,
Um,
that makes
there's some
sense.
slow novels, like entire books that are like, oh, it's brutal, but you can't skip them because the characters they introduce are important later on, that kind of thing. But
Mhm.
this particular one, like, and I came at it because I had read the entire series. I knew even after the first book, I knew where this book had to go. Like I knew
mhm,
the ending, and
Mhm.
which kind of took away a little bit of, I guess, the series. But it would be totally different if, like, for you that has never read the series.
I didn't know anything about it, just that
Yeah,
Amazon had turned it into a show and people hated it.
yeah.
Yeah.
Um, if you hadn't read the series, then you'd probably like you haven't read the first book.
mhm,
Yeah, well, watch the series because it'll actually be pretty good because you
Okay.
don't have any preconceptions because you don't know the characters or anything that they're
Yeah.
referring to. But after you read the book, or if you really enjoy the book or whatever,
Mhm.
going back to the television series is like, oh, what did they do? Why are they doing this? And then it just
Yeah.
seems like they just had too many fingers in the pot, and oh,
Mhm.
we should do this for this like equality, and we have to like have it's full of like gender and like racial, and like they're trying to bring everyone to equality. Well,
mhm,
this is written in the 90s kind of thing. Like this, it was a very like it was very male specific, but all the Aes Sedai, they're all female kind of thing. Like
Yeah.
they're like super powerful in this world. That should have been enough, but in the television series, they're like, anyway, I'm not gonna get into it. If you're gonna go into this series, if you haven't read the series yet, watch the TV show first because
Okay.
it's only like 8 episodes or something like that. It's like not a huge amount of time,
mhm,
and then read the novels
Yeah. Because I will
because
say,
that's a huge amount of time.
yeah, because they're very intimidating. So I will say, it took me. I didn't really I'm like, okay, this is going somewhere because there's 14 fucking books after this. So I have to know. And it was really slow going. I, oh, there were so many times where I'm just like, Maureen, just shut up. Just
Yeah.
yes,
stop
yes,
talking, honey. Nobody cares. And it wasn't until when her and Lan actually met up in
Well,
my mind that it actually started. That's where the story started for me.
and
And
mhm,
then
that's pretty well they ended it almost.
yeah, that's what I mean. Like it took me
Yeah.
that far. And then I'm like, oh, they meant, oh, okay. All right. And then I like the ending because I'm
Yeah.
like, okay, well, now I want to read more.
Yeah. By the time like Moraine and Lan come in early in the first novel because they're main characters, but well, Lan hasn't changed much from this set of novels. He's always like the tall, stoic
Yeah.
kind of guy. He's like that throughout the whole series. But Moraine changes quite a bit, and I think that was what really threw me. It was like,
Hmm.
yeah, we're seeing her like so young and like, oh, she's a teenager kind of thing, and her thoughts are stupid and all that. But where you see her in the actual Wheel of Time series, she's like a Gandalf character. Like
Oh, okay.
like how
wow,
the
that's a
hell did you
huge
go
difference.
from there to like
Wow.
in like 16, 17 years? No, this doesn't make any
Okay.
sense.
Oh, all right.
So yeah.
Interesting.
Wow,
Because I didn't
oh
like
man,
her. I didn't like her. I found her really annoying.
Yeah.
Yeah, you do, but then in later on the series, the actual series, yeah, she's a totally different character.
Because I wanted more from Lan's point of view. I wanted more of what the Valkyrie. I wanted more of that story and his story. And I think I would have liked it more if. And it's not that I say I didn't like it. Again, this was just to see if I even liked what he had, like the world he created. But that one scene at the beginning where they're talking about going to, okay, how do you pronounce the? Is it? I call them the ale, and I know that's not right.
Aiel.
Aiel. Okay. Yeah. So the Aiel, and so you got that scene about him describing, the anvil and the hammer, war tactic and stuff, and then you don't hear from him for another 2/3 of the book at all. It's all just Moraine's point of view, and I found that a little bit much. I would have rather back and forth a little bit more.
You
see what Lan was up to.
You listened to it, right, Sean?
Yeah. Oh, I've read it too.
Okay.
So I've read and listened to all of them.
Yeah.
Okay. One of the interesting things they did with the audiobook is they had 2 readers. So when the story was primarily from his point of view, it was a male reader. When it was primarily from her view, it was a female reader.
Oh, that's interesting.
Which was fine. It's just, I mean, granted, they're reading the same material, but the way that they did the inflection of the voices was kind of weird. Like, she would read Lan as being, I don't know, like he was definitely, when the male voice was reading, it was definitely more like you said, stoic. It was very much like that. But when the female was reading it, it was like almost like, I don't want to say jerk, like flighty, maybe. I don't know. It kind of, it was like, maybe y'all should have, of course, ideally would have been to have a male reader read all the male characters and a female read all the females. That would have been ideal.
Yeah.
But maybe they should have at least got them in the room together to kind of discuss, like, all right, well, how are you going to read this voice? Yeah. How are you going to read this voice? But
I'm pretty sure, I'd have to check, but I'm pretty sure they read the entire series. Like all the Wheel of Time books. Yeah, and it's similar to this. I'm pretty sure anyway. It's been a little while.
Okay. That'd be interesting to look into. So, well, one of the reasons I had to stop and once again, so like I said, I had to stop and kind of do a little research because they start talking about it's the book picks up. It's literally right after this war, and the way that they're describing the enemy, I'm like, are these magical beings? Are these monsters? Or are they just like really hyping up these human beings?
Oh, the ale,
yeah.
Yeah.
And I was like, I wasn't sure the way they were talking about them. So, like I said, I didn't know where on the meter. I'm like, are these orc-like people? Are they just like really bad dudes, or what? Are they actual monsters? But anyway, so that, like I said, that kind of threw me. And then we have this initial talk about the war's over and there's bad things to come or whatever. And then it just like all of a sudden like smash cut. And now we have these 2 young ladies, and they're like, "Oh yes, now we're going to be trained soon." And I'm just like, "Okay, this is kind of jarring." And it's the characters that we've been referring to. It's Moraine and Swain, which, by the way, I'm like, did he really mean to make them, rhyme? But whatever. They're accepted, and they're told that they're part of. Make sure I can get all this. They're part of the White Tower. They're accepted. So basically, they're about to become sorceresses, which are referred to as the Aes Sedai. And at first, they're told, "Okay, we want you to go out and start collecting all of the names for all of the children that were born between this time period and this time period, because we're looking for essentially." The rebirth of
the Dragonborn.
The Dragonborn. Now is
Dragon Reborn.
The Dragon Reborn, yes. Okay, so here's my question. It sounds like, and I was still kind of confused on this because, like I said, this book kind of wait a minute. So is the Dragonborn supposed to be good or bad? Or
yeah, they never really clarified that. It was just depended on how you looked at the prophecy, like however you looked at it.
And see, that's what confused me. I'm like, so is this Jesus coming back or Satan? Like,
He's
it's
supposed to break the wheel, isn't it?
so. Man, I want to explain this, but I don't want to. If you actually want to read the series, I don't want to give too much away. But basically, there's the Dark One. Okay,
Mhm.
Okay.
so that's the supreme evil
okay,
kind of dude. Sauron kind of black guy. Anyway, he was imprisoned, but his imprisonment was what tainted the male half of the one power. So
Mhm.
that's why only females can be Aes Sedai.
Yeah.
Any male that gets the power is tainted and eventually drives them insane.
Yeah.
Now, the seals are all breaking on the prison of the Dark One.
uh-huh.
So it's been prophesized that the Dragon Reborn, who was originally another person, it's basically his soul being reborn into a new body, will be born, and he needs to be at the last battle, and that's basically where the wheel starts up again. Now, him being there, the prophecy, it doesn't say if he will stop the Dark One or help him, but
Mhm.
he has to be there. So, and that's why everyone fears him so much,
Okay.
because they aren't sure. Okay, but this could be the end of times here. We don't know, but he needs to be there.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So there's like groups of people like, no, we don't want him there. We'll just take our chances and let the Dark One roam, kind of thing, and or don't believe in him. But they're very sure that either way, with the dragon being reborn, the world's going to be like destroyed, total disaster, kind of thing. So that's why so many people fear him and that kind of thing. Anyway, so in this book, you saw the prophecy was created, okay, by the second in command of the Aes Sedai, and the
Mhm.
prophecy was so jarring it killed her.
Yep.
Mhm.
Strep.
And the only two there were Moraine and Sanchez that actually saw it. So then, like, without giving too much of the novel away, but there's Black Aja now that are trying to suppress it, and they want to find the Dragon Reborn because they're in league with the Dark One. They're figuring if we help out him, like, and at this point they've pledged their souls to them basically. So if we help, we're gonna live forever. That's the kind of thing. So they're like trying to silence anyone that might know about the Dragon Reborn, and that's what this novel is basically about. It was introducing a lot of concepts that, for anyone that actually read the series, like knew all this stuff, and it's like not a big deal. But I think he was just trying to give like a little bit more backstory
Mhm.
Mhm.
to some of the stuff. But like it's more backstory for someone that's already read the series. Someone that hadn't read the series, yeah, there's going to be a lot of holes there, a lot of questions for you that, like, okay, well, what does this mean? Like, is this important? Is this not important? Kind of thing. So, yeah, I can see where that'd be a pain in the ass. This prequel really wasn't a great book to start with. Oh well.
I felt like the 1,000 pages might be a bit much for a month
But it was
long.
1,000 times better than this book.
Well, I don't doubt that. I'm just trying to think logistics in terms of the speed people read at. I don't listen to things at double speed. I can't. I don't know how.
Even yeah, like even
And I don't read
the
very
audiobooks for these ones are long.
Yeah. And I can't read very fast. Like I don't read very fast either. So that would just I wouldn't be able to read anything else for probably like 3 months. It would just be that book.
That one book. Yeah, that'd be a little tough.
This is an
Um,
epic series. I would
Yes.
totally recommend it if you want to get into it. But yeah, it set aside some time, that kind of
Yeah. It's a bit beefy.
thing.
But I definitely
um,
will be. I'll definitely be getting the first book for sure. After reading this, I will.
I've got them all, Chris, if you want to borrow them.
No, I will keep them. You're thinking about boring. I want a library in my house. So
all right.
give them.
Well, they do look good in a library, so there you go.
Okay. Well, I'm going to start collecting them.
Okay. So they get tested because apparently they need as many Aes Sedai on board as they can get
Mhm.
to go look for this Dragon Reborn. They both get tested, and the test is interesting.
Yeah.
And
Didn't like
then
that part.
yeah, it was okay.
I felt yeah, it's fine.
But so they both, and then they choose which. What are the different? What are they called?
Colors,
Ajas.
Ajas.
Ajas. Yes, they choose which color Aja they're going to become. Um, and then like you said later on, there's rumors that is there a black Aja? Is there one working against all of us? So, but let's see here. So, and then several people are killed. There are several. There's uh, um, an incident, and several people are killed. And then Moraine is basically told that she needs to stay back and become the new queen, essentially. And she's not having it. And she's like, "I'm cool, sure. Why that works? That's great. I'm just gonna step over here for a minute," and then basically runs off. And then it switches over, and I can't remember if we'd already been introduced to Lan at this point, but then we were really introduced to Lan at this point. And he's a soldier, but he's actually meant to become a king. A king of a fallen kingdom is the problem. And that's kind of the problem is a lot of people are like, I know you're technically supposed to head up this former country, but that may not sit too well, depending on who you're talking to. So you might want to, hold off on that. Um, let's see here. Black Aja. Okay. So anyway, so they get together when they meet up. They're on the road. Him and a group of couple other soldiers and her are on the road. They don't know 100% that she's a Aes Sedai, but they're pretty sure. At least there's a lot of stuff that kind of is like, oh, I think this is the case. And we have some kind of this is when we first kind of see their interactions together. So let me ask you this, Sean. In the further books, are they as catty with each other?
No.
Okay.
There's always kind of it almost seems like there's always like an inside joke kind of thing between them. But basically, at the end of the book, when Moraine asks Lan to, like, it explains everything to Lan and then asks him to be her warder kind of thing, and how serious he is at that point. Knowing what's going on, that's him for the rest of the series.
Wow.
He takes his lead from Moraine. They very rarely argue. But keep in mind, the other novels, as big as these two characters are, like Lan and Moraine, they're secondary characters to they're called Ta'avrin. In the novels, there's only three of them, three boys. And that's basically, they kind of talk about webs and strings, how everyone is intertwined and all that. But Ta'avrin are basically nodes to those webs. So everyone is kind of tied to a Ta'avrin. And then all of a sudden there's three of them in a village. So they're three boys. So those are your main three characters. And then there's a few more main characters from the village and later on, that kind of thing. But literally, Moraine is kind of, I didn't even plan this, but yeah, it's like a Gandalf character, a guide kind of thing, giving information every now and then. Lan becomes, he's always a pivotal character too, but in the grand scheme of things, not so much as the other characters in the novels.
Wow.
This novel was basically, we wanted to get a little bit of storyline of who these two characters are that kind of wander in from the darkness and kind of form the group kind of thing. Like, who are they? And because in the other novels, you always know they know more than what they're saying, kind of thing. And they do talk about the prophecy. Like, Moraine talks about the prophecy later on in the novels, and like everything that happens in these novels, you kind of know what had already happened, so it wasn't too much of a shock. I think one of the inside jokes was Moraine and Lan's first meeting, where she was like dunked in the water, kind of thing. So that was kind of like an inside joke in the other books that they never elaborated on. So now you kind of have that, like you actually got to hear the story, kind of thing. But yeah, as important as these two characters are in the Wheel of Time series, they aren't the true focal points of the novels.
Wow, that's crazy. I was sitting here thinking as you were talking, I was like, so that would be like if we did the prequel movies, the Star Wars prequel movies on who? Like Lando, maybe? I mean, he ends up important in Return of the Jedi, but up to that point, it's like, yeah, but we've got our main three, like, so.
I would say Obi-Wan.
Yeah.
Because he's a guy, but they're actually doing like the Obi-Wan series.
Yeah,
but yeah, he would be closer to Moraine and Lan.
Yeah.
Actually, Obi-Wan would be a really good one from the prequel series, because you got to see him as a Padawan kind of thing, and the similarities are actually pretty striking. So, good job.
Well, thank you. So, anyway, we in the book we come to a head, and basically, Moraine Sedai is her name, is the Black
Moraine
Aja.
Sedai? Oh,
yeah.
No.
Yeah.
They find out about the Black Aja. She becomes blue, so.
No, but that other one, the older one in the Marine, yeah.
Maybe I said.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, she's the Black Aja. She ends up, killing several people. Lan is actually supposed to become, like I said, he's supposed to become a king. He ends up at this palace and is basically told by, I guess his previous lover that, I've got plans for you. You're going to marry my daughter, and
just
he's
really
not having that
creepy
either.
how that happens.
Yeah, that was.
Yeah, I didn't like her, and I was not sad. I
wasn't. And so both of our main characters end up kind of running off because they're both running away. She didn't want to become, a sitting queen, and he didn't want to marry this young girl to, basically, take up a small empire. And that's when, like you said, she basically spills the beans and says everything, and he ends up becoming her warder, which is, I'm guessing, her confidant, protector, all the above.
Pretty much. It depends on the relationship between the warder and the Aes Sedai. A lot of health benefits and physical benefits happen with that bond with the ward.
You said health benefits. I was like, what, dental? Like,
yeah, pretty much.
Got a good dental plan.
Yeah, dental plan.
But there's also, like, depending on the Aes Sedai, there's like a compulsion aspect of it too. They can literally push the warder into doing things. So, like, if you have a bad person, it might not turn out to be such a great bond, that kind of thing. Like, if the Aes Sedai is a little bit too controlling, but they also they know each other's emotions. Like, there's like a knot in the back of their head that they always know what the other one is feeling, where they are exactly, that kind of thing. Like, it's a very intimate connection. They go on to it later on in the other books and all that, but one of the things that I don't think they really talked about too much, but at the beginning of the novel, when they're actually having the Aiel War, so when they're actually battling, do they explain what the war was about? I don't think they do.
No, just they came out from what was it, the battle?
Aiel Waste.
Yeah, the Waste. That's right.
Yeah,
Waste.
Just that they came, and that was the
war actually started because of Moraine's uncle. The one, like, her family all died. The uncles that died out, because the uncle was the king, and there was basically the Aiel way back had presented Carrion, which was their country or city or whatever, with a gift of a tree, a sapling, and everything was all good. This thing grew to mammoth proportions or whatever. Well, Moraine's uncle had it cut down to make like a throne or something like that. And that just set the Aiel off. Like, it was a huge insult and stuff like that. And that's what the war was actually about. It was Moraine's uncle that caused it.
Yeah, do you think briefly she mentions that, or something is mentioned really?
Well, she talks about the uncles and her family, with like how much she loathed them and didn't want to be anything like them. Her father was the kind of the oddball in the family for actually being nice and a bookworm kind of thing, but the rest of them were like battle hardened and conquest driven and vain and arrogant and all that. So like they got all wiped out, which was great, but left her for succession. So, which is exactly what she didn't want. But yeah, it was, can't remember her uncle's name. It was like Layman or something like that.
I don't remember.
But it was basically Layman's folly, which started the Aiel War. So, but yeah, it was, I'm surprised they didn't go more into detail about that. But anyway, if you read the other novels, you'll find out all about it.
Yeah, because I don't remember them specifically saying, like,
no.
Now that you're explaining it, it makes a little more sense as to what they were saying, because they mentioned it, but they didn't. They just flat out did not say.
Because
the war was caused because of A, and
the Aiel basically all of a sudden just pulled out. They were literally winning, and then all of a sudden all the Aiel, like, no, we're done. But they never really explain it. But they pull out the same day as the prophecy. So among the Aiel, they have women that can channel and use the one power as well. And at the same point that the dragon is actually born, a lot of these women realize what had just happened, that the dragon had been reborn. And they say, no, we're done with this. Something else is much bigger is happening, and they all pull out. Yeah. So that was the end of the war.
Yeah, because it just stopped and they didn't explain.
And
no, just that they had they were retreating.
You don't find that out until later on in the books as well. Why they actually pulled out. It was kind of left as a mystery. So, sorry.
No, that's it. No, because they didn't explain it, and if you have to wait like.
There was lots of stuff in this novel. Like I said, this novel was really based for the people that already read the series, and it just gave them a little bit more that they could, like, oh, I've already got this like complete puzzle, but well, let's add an extra border around it.
And I figured that's what it was.
As you're reading it, you're missing the entire puzzle. You're just seeing the outside border.
Yeah.
Like,
I want to finish the puzzle, because if I don't, then I haven't invested too much.
Well, one of the things I wanted to bring up, we talked about how, and Nathan Lowell does this a lot in his books. He talks about food, but it's not.
Oh yeah.
there's food, and he talks about the food, but it never becomes like it's not overly done. Like, it's not like, oh, there's an entire chapter we talked about this meal or whatever. It's not Tolkien like in that respect.
Yeah.
I felt that way about the clothing in this book.
Yeah.
And I don't care. They kept going on about what they were wearing, and I'm just like,
having those dress conversations. Oh my god! And there were so many of them.
Yes.
Or Swan's thing for like being cheap and
hmm
oh god.
Yeah.
Yeah, there was a lot. I mean, you get I don't know, it was a lot. That and height seemed to be pretty important characteristics for people.
Yeah, you brought that up. We were talking about that earlier, and you had mentioned you're just
Yeah.
like, what is it with everyone? Oh, he was he was a few,
Is
a
it
little bit
hand
taller.
taller? Okay.
And it's just like, all right, cool. So there's a
Cool.
bunch of tall people
Yeah.
walking around, I guess.
I do like the difference between just so you could kind of feel how different Marine and Swan. I'll never get. She's Suan. Grew up because she felt it was frivolous to be spending all this money, and then Moraine's walking through like she freaking owns the place because that's where she grew up. You need
Mhm.
this kind of dress and this kind of dress and the silks and stuff, and so it just very clearly that they come from different class systems. That one thinks it's impractical to have all these stupid dresses, and then the other one is like, oh no, we need them. Trust me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It would have been all right if they'd maybe done that once.
Yeah,
They
yeah,
did that a
explain
lot
it.
in this
Yeah.
novel. I was like, oh my god, yeah, the horse is dead. Quit
Yeah.
beating it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We get it. Yeah, and but the other part that bugged me, it bugs me with any kind of character when somebody does this to them is that they have this like entitlement thing that only they know about, but everybody else is supposed to like hear
Yeah.
too. That pisses me off. I don't like that. So when
And-
Maureen started doing that, I'm just like,
Yes.
oh no, no, I don't like this. I don't
Yeah.
like it. I don't like it when authors do that to any character. It drives me nuts.
I think they're so important, more important than
Yes, but
anyone.
and
Ugh.
everybody's just supposed to know this,
Yeah.
even though most people couldn't give a shit. But they're like constantly offended. Oh,
Yeah.
how dare they? It's like, well, they didn't know. Like, relax.
Yeah.
It's fine. You're supposed to be this stoic, sort of benevolent feature, and you're like judging the shit out of people in your head.
Was there anything else y'all want to bring up? Was there any particular scenes that you enjoyed or you didn't enjoy? I mean, we've kind of talked about some of the ones we didn't enjoy. Like I said,
Mhm.
the reason I asked you about the cattiness between the characters is because that whole trip where she just constantly was like,
Just
"What can I do to punish him?"
yes, the whole
And I'm like,
entire time.
Oh yeah.
God, you're a bitch. Like,
Yeah.
why would you
Petulant.
ever? Because, like I said, I read that. Oh, yes, at the end of the book, he becomes bonded to her, and the whole time I'm listening to this part, I'm just like,
Why?
yeah, why? Why would you want to stick with this person unless it's life or death? Why did you want? Why did you pick
Yeah.
her?
Yes.
So,
And especially, yeah, like Marine comes off so bad, like how high and mighty she is over everyone else,
mhm.
like putting men in their place and like peasants. Like, oh my god,
Yeah.
like you are not the character that I know.
Interesting.
Ugh.
Yeah. I did. There was one scene. I really like Bukama. Bukama? Am I saying that wrong? Butchered everybody's
I
name.
think it's Bukama.
I think it's Bukama. I think you got it right.
I
Yeah.
really liked Bukama. I could have read all the books about Bukama. And I just liked how he was just this. I always liked the old gruff
Yeah.
kind of dude that's like, because he's been taking care of Lan since he was a baby. He carried him on his back while they were fleeing Malkiri, and he's always been by his side. But he's kind of like Lan's compass. He's always that point for him because he's just been there the whole time, and he like survives everything. He's like the old man that won't die. And I won't say any spoilers, but I liked Bukama, and yeah, he was a good dude. Oh, and I appreciate the map at the beginning of the book. So there's a map in the book, and I appreciate that because I kept referencing.
Oh yeah.
I kept referencing it because I'm like, where are they? Because when people travel in books and stuff like that, I want to know.
Yeah, they have that in all the books. I
Okay,
believe.
well that's good. It was
Well, that's
helpful.
good.
Yeah, I liked it
At
because
least the hardcovers, anyway. But
yeah, well, I have a paperback, and they have it in that, and it was just nice because they mentioned a bunch of like where people are from and stuff.
Well, yeah,
But,
especially
oh,
the first novel, because the first novel basically the whole setting is them traveling.
Mm-hmm.
So the map is kind of handy. You can see
Yeah.
the progress and stuff like that.
I just like to see how Robert Jordan
Yeah.
did geography and mapped it all out. And yeah, I thought it's for somebody who doesn't. So I understand why the prequel would be for people who've already read it. You get a little bit more information. You get a little bit more, like you said, you understand that private joke between Lan and Moraine.
Yeah.
But as somebody who hasn't, it's if you like high fantasy, that's the other thing. Because this is a reason why Ray didn't read it, because he's discovering he doesn't like high fantasy.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, it doesn't. Because we're reading another book, and he's just like, "Oh, when does it start? When's the act? Oh, this is boring." Yeah, if you like world building and just all that kind of stuff, it's an interesting introduction to it, and it does, for me at least, make me want to know more about it.
Well, this is definitely a series of world building, because by the end of it, like, you're familiar with
and that's awesome.
every part of that map and all the different peoples, and then plus they got people coming in from the other side of the ocean, kind of stuff. So
well, then that's exciting. So I want to read more. Not right now. Stuff I got to read first. But definitely, I'm going to get the first book for sure.
Well, I guess that is it for our discussion of New Spring by Robert Jordan. Let's go ahead, before we jump into what we're reading, let's go ahead and discuss. We decided once again we're going to do another random vote, or I guess random poll, a random assignment, I guess, really, of books that we're picking. So we have come up with our list. Our book for April was actually Chris. You got back-to-back picks.
Yeah, no kidding.
And her pick was Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone by J.K. Rowling. Now, number one, kind of surprised we haven't already covered Harry Potter.
Yes, I was surprised too.
Being epically, an epically geeky show. But yeah, of course, I jokingly, I like threw a tantrum, and I'm just like, really, like Sean's talking about bringing us along for this 9-book series, and you had to outdo him, and yeah. And then I thought about it, and I was like, no, had she picked the Wheel of Time series, that would have been really, really outdoing it. So.
Yeah, that would have been a bit much. But it's more just like I did it for Jen, because she hasn't read Harry Potter or seen any of the Harry Potter movies.
Which is so crazy
which is weird to me. So I was like, I'm going to do it, and hopefully she reads it. Because it's also, the first 2 books are really short. So I think the audiobook's only like 7 or 8 hours. It's not very long.
They're like 8, I think. Yeah. I downloaded the first one today I debated on it or not, because I've got the book. I've read it. I've seen the movies like a billion times. I'm like, do I really want to listen to this again? I could probably just wing it, but I'm like, no.
It depends on the reader. So that's the other thing, is y'all get a different reader than I do, and y'all's readers, I think, much better. The one for the U.S. versions is not bad.
Jim Dale reads the North American one, which is what we get. And I think
let me check. I don't think it was Jim.
And then Stephen Fry narrates the UK version. So we get the North American version. So that's
Stephen Fry would have been awesome.
Yeah. I didn't even check that, because I use audible.com, not .ca.
I don't think there's a difference. I think the North American audiobook was Jim Dale, and then the UK book was Stephen Fry.
Let's see. This is by Jim Dale.
Yeah.
Is that good?
Okay. So.
Yeah, no, Jim Dale's, he does a great job. He's got an excellent cadence and tone to his voice.
I might actually speed this one up a little bit. See, I hate doing that, but I know every bit of the story, so I might as well zip through it a little faster.
Yeah, you can get through it a little faster. So. Yeah. So that's April's book. May's book was Jen's pick, and it is
Offerman.
Where the Deer and the Antelope Play by Nick Offerman. So that ought to be interesting.
That'll be a good one.
Yeah, I've read a couple of his books. My book, I was next for June, and I picked Infinite by Jeremy Robinson. Have you read this, Sean?
I've read most of the Jeremy Robinson ones. Which one is this one about again?
This was the one. This is the one where the guy wakes up on the ship, or wakes up on the ship, isn't immediately killed, comes back to life.
Yeah, I think
I don't
Was it
want to
Rob-
give too much away.
Yeah.
Okay, so
I like Robinson though. His stuff
this
is good.
was. I don't know if you're going to. I don't know if you're going to enjoy this, Chris. I think it's kind of brutal at the first part, but once you get past that, I'm really interested. I was interested. I didn't know if you had read it or not, Sean, but I really want to hear Ray's take on this because this book is a roller coaster. It sets up this world, and then stuff starts happening, and you're just like, what am I listening to? This is batshit crazy. And then it kind of gets normal again. You're like, okay, so maybe that was just a thing. Oh no, here we go again. And it's just like it was a roller coaster, just up and down, and like it was. At one point, I was like, I don't know if I enjoy this or not, but I can't stop listening to it. I have to find out what happens.
It's a train wreck.
So yeah, I ripped through it, and then I immediately started doing the Infinite too. So because I was like, well, I have to find out what the hell happens in this. But yeah, I'm really interested to see what Ray's take is on this, and I'd be really interested to get Sean's take. I don't want to mention anything else because I don't want to give anything away. If Sean's read it, he'll remember it. I'm pretty sure because wow. Anyway, so June's book is Infinite by Jeremy Robinson. July's book is Sean's pick, and he went with Half Share by Nathan Lowell. So this is going to be the sequel to Quarter Share, which we reviewed last month? Yeah, it was
last month. Yeah.
Yeah. And then finally, August book is Ray's pick, and he picked another Nathan Lowell book called Ravenwood, and I did not even know this one existed.
Yeah, I didn't know this one either.
No, I think it popped up on his recommended or something.
All right, well then we will definitely give that one a shot in August. So
we need to interview Nathan Lowell. I think at this point
it's getting there.
Yeah, I think we'll need to see if we can get the man on. So
yeah.
All right, well let's move on to what else we've been reading. Would anyone like to go first?
I'll go first.
All right, what else have you been reading, Chris?
So I just finished The Night Circus by Aaron Morgenstern.
Mm-hmm.
I listened to it. It was also narrated by Jim Dale, so it was a little weird.
Okay.
I had a hard time.
Voice recycling again?
Yeah, it was a little weird. And Jim Dale swears in this one, which I was like, no, he does. Dumbledore doesn't swear. It was hard to get over that. But it was fine. It was fine. Like, it was okay. I think if I had actually read it, I would have liked it more, but it was fine. It was an interesting take on magic. But and then I'm reading a book it's a nonfiction called Wow, No Thank You by Samantha Irby, and it's a collection of just essays. She's I think she's 41 now, 41-year-old woman. She lives in, I think it's New York or Los Angeles, I can't remember, but it's, she's got a chronic illness. She's, lesbian. She's, she's a Black woman, and just kind of her view on the world. And she's got great taste in music. She talks about that too. And then I just started, so I'm interested to see if you guys have heard of this. We got recommended this book by, there's a secondhand book in town, and she's like a huge high fantasy nerd. It is called The Name of the Wind by Patrick Rothfuss.
I've heard of it. I've never read it, but I've heard lots of people mention it.
So she was like, come back when you've read that, and then we're going to talk. So it's 27, almost 28 hours long on Audible. So this was the one that we just started. We're only like an hour and a half in, and Ray's just like, no, I can't do it.
I've heard really good things about it. So
I want to continue with it. So I'm going to be reading this one by myself. But yeah, so that's what I'm reading.
Nice. Sean, you reading anything else?
So I think last time we talked, I had started Homeland for the Dark Elf trilogy.
Mm-hmm.
And this is one of the books that I read when I was a kid. So I just finished the second book, which was Exile, and I've started Sojourn, which is the third book. But this is from the Icewind Dale trilogy by R.A. Salvatore.
Mhm.
Now, I could have picked that series because I think he's up to like book 36 or 37 in that, but I decided
Jeebus.
against it.
What else?
But no, and it's action fantasy kind of thing with dark elves, and
Mhm.
this particular one, he's left the underground and is just ventured onto the surface trying to find his place, but he doesn't speak any language up above, and his race is like known to be brutal, so anyone that sees him wants to kill him, kind of thing. So it's a nostalgic book for me because it just takes me back to like high school kind of thing reading this stuff. So I'm really enjoying it, but I'll get through them fairly quick. I'll probably start Harry Potter again shortly and just kind of buzz through it. And some of the other picks, we'll see. I got some Star Trek novels I've been trying to get through as well, but it's kind of I usually read at work during my lunches, but I just haven't had time. So
Mhm.
I've had the same unopened book in my lunch bag for like 4 weeks now. So I haven't even cracked it open, so it's not going that great.
Gotcha. The only thing, like I said, I'm halfway through Infinite 2. I went through Infinite 1 really quickly. Um, but I had a lot of time because I ended up doing half share, full share, the rest of that next trilogy, and then the trilogy after that. Like
Wow.
I just went ahead and ripped through all of them because it's what do you call it, whale song,
Yeah,
Chris?
real song.
It's just relaxing. Like I
Yeah.
can just listen to the man read, and I can follow Ishmael through through the stars, and I can do whatever mindless work it is I've got to get done. So yeah, I that's primarily what I did. Um, like I said, when I finish Infinite 2, I think I've got a credit or two backed up, or I may have, I don't know. Anyway, Ray had recommended something for me to listen to, or maybe it was Sean. I don't know. I have to go back to my DM. Someone had mentioned something. No, I think it was Sean. I think you had mentioned something that I was going to look into, and like I said, this just popped
Yeah.
up on my recommended, and I was like, well, it's not that long. It's space. I'll give it a shot. And then, like I said, it was like being on a freaking roller coaster. Roller coaster. So to the point I had to back up a couple of times and make sure I heard what I heard. I'm just like, what? So anyway, well, that is our show for the month, ladies and gentlemen. If you would please give us a 5-star rating on iTunes, Google, Stitcher, wherever it is you listen to the show. You can find us at epicallygeeky.com, where you can find the rest of the shows we do, including the Epically Geeky Show, Sustainably Geeky, and Creatively Geeky. You can also find the site on all the socials at Epically Geeky. Where can we find you online, Chris?
All the shows that you'd mentioned, and on Instagram at Victorian Botanical.
Sean?
Screwing with Wikipedia, epically geeky, and your favorite broken toy on Instagram.
And as always, you can follow my individual wacky adventure online at Optimus Jane on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. For everyone on the site, have a good night.